Oh my goodness, that came quick, gentlemen. Wow, we got here real quick. I didn't get a single share out, not a single one. But good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you guys doing? Doing all right?
Mercy.
Doing great, doing great. I was just about to hit a share, and then next thing you know, it ended.
I know, we were right here. So listen, we want to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon, but we need your help. Normally, in this pre-stream, when you see the countdown, we're sharing this thing like crazy to all these different groups. We need you to help us out. So if you're watching this now, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, go ahead and hit that share button, tag somebody, pop this share in a group or a page that you're a part of so that folk know that we are here and live today. I wish you guys could have seen us just before we started. Not before we started, but before we got to this screen. That seat where you see Dr. Henry was empty.
Yeah.
He just got in place just in time, but we're glad to be here.
And I got to tell the listeners why. Let me tell you something. We are doing a revival coming up.
Awesome.
A spiritual week of emphasis starting tomorrow. We actually have a pastor coming from Nigeria, G-Day. And so we have our people recording, and they were recording in the office. And so and that's where I'm at right now. So I had to set the lights. I had to do all this stuff. And I couldn't even get the people to see my camera, the camera that I have. So you're going to have to bear with me because they were using the recording. So. And then immediately after this show, my wife is doing a workshop on for a church, and she's going to need some of this equipment too. So, mental health workshop.
Oh, man.
Awesome. I'm looking at some of these comments. Tiffany Brissett says, I need Lola Moore Johnston at the round table. She emerged mightily with the Bloom Conference during COVID. That's right. David Hunt says he's waiting in the balcony. Bryant Taylor says, fantastic opener. Good afternoon from G. Anthony Graham, one of our former guests. Good to see him there. And then, hey, look who's back. Jennifer Sharon says, hello, Pastor. I am back. Got to put that up there. Good to have you back. I know she was away from us for a few weeks. We heard you were out in California, Jennifer. Glad to have. I don't know if you're still out in California, but glad that you're back on the round table today.
Well, you know what? This week we have had a great week. We are coming off of the PELC experience.
Yes.
PELC was virtual this year.
Virtual.
And everyone who registered had a wonderful experience, and I am still off a high from PELC.
Man, PELC was awesome this year. PELC, just to see it being in the virtual space, and I saw some comments later in the week that there were a lot of people who I think they went both ways, whether, it was nice to be having PELC virtual. Others were saying, nah, we miss being in the building. And if you've ever been to PELC, the experience in the building is like nothing else that you've ever experienced. It's just, and like, I'm a low-key guy. I'm like, everybody's up marching towards the stage. I'm sitting down with my arms folded and my legs crossed because that's just me. But I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun, and I love the energy and stuff that's in the place. But this time, Roger, you were working behind the scenes with PELC this year, making it happen.
Yes.
So big shout outs to you and the crew.
Yeah,
and later on you'll hear a little more about that.
Yeah.
Pastor Wade was there, and he was one of the presenters in a workshop on the first night. I think it was
That's
on
right.
Sunday night.
That's right.
Listen, Pastor Wade did well. I mean, I praise God that he's on the round table.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, Dr. Morgan Medlock.
Oh man, she brought a word. Listen, I don't know if you were at PELC, if you had the experience of experiencing PELC this year, share with us in the chat. Who was your speaker that just said, wow, blew your mind? Just put it in the chat. If you did not get an opportunity to experience PELC, you can still register because everything was online. So you can still register and still get access. I heard Dr. Jesse Wilson sharing that. So you can still have a PELC experience this year. Just go over to PELC2020.com and you can register and have the access what you need to get yourself going. And I tell you, it's worth it.
Johnson Caesar, man. Johnson is my neighbor, man. Listen, I got to put this out there. Johnson Caesar, he pastors, I believe it is the largest church in Southeastern Conference. But this brother's doing live streams of his church services where I've looked at his YouTube channel. He's pulling like 50 and 60,000 views on his worship services, man. That's crazy. I'm like, mercy. But this brother, whew. Yeah, but praise and listen. Okay, here's one of my takeaways from PELC. One of my takeaways from PELC this year was the Adventist ministry has nothing to be ashamed of whatsoever when it comes to preaching. We have some gifts and skill sets within this body that are second to none, and I say that anywhere. There are some gifted preachers in other faiths and other denominations, and we saw some of them during PELC. But I'm convinced that God has placed within this family. He's placed some gift sets that, again, second to none. Tony Hughes says doctors Sedlacek. I got that right. Sedlacek. One of the workshops and things that were going on there. Great stuff.
Yeah.
So Roger.
I was going to say one takeaway I got from PELC is get some rest. Rest and relaxation, everybody.
Selah.
Selah, baby. Selah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Listen, I'm excited about our guests today, and they look excited too. I'm seeing some stuff we don't normally see going on, and we'll explain that in just a minute. But just before we get that, Roger, you were in Huntsville this weekend. I'm going to give you the screen. Talk to us.
Yeah, I was in Huntsville to be physically there, but we want to share with you today that there's a restaurant owned by Adventist, local community restaurant that suffered because we did not have an in-person activity there this weekend. It wasn't just this weekend. They've been having problems all year long because of COVID. And so our good friends, some of our creatives and friends that we have met online this year, they're planning a live-a-thon tomorrow between 6 and 10 at Mango's Restaurant on their Facebook page. You can come on and support them either through Cash App or through the GoFundMe page. They're in need of some funding so they could stay open and be a help to the community. So you want to be a part of that on tomorrow. So I just wanted to give out a shout out to those creatives who have made this opportunity available for that local establishment, supporting their local establishment.
Awesome. That's exciting to see. We're glad to see the community kind of stepping up to help, because there's a lot of people in a lot of interesting situations that they never would have imagined them to be in at this time. And that's kind of a little bit a great segue for what's on the table today. We got who's on the table today. I done went and pushed the wrong button. Got him in too soon, but we're glad to have him. Here we go.
JD was praying. He was praying. He wasn't ready. He was praying. That's why.
Well, listen, let me just tell you what's on. I'm gonna tell you what's on the table.
Okay, tell us what's on the table, Doc.
On the table, listen. This has been a rocky year. It's been a rocky year. Started out with great big plans, but then COVID-19 happened, and what did we do? Some panicked, some ran away, some hid, but guess what? Some people emerged.
That's right.
And so today we're dealing with emerging ministries in COVID-19.
All right. Sounds good. So, Dr. Wade, Pastor Wade, who do we have? This is a mute question now because they see them all there. I wanted the dramatic intro, but okay, go ahead, Doc. Who do we have up there?
When we looked at the table, everybody who's online is killing it. But we could only get those who are available to be with us. We are just so excited to have with us. He was with us before but on a different topic. But we said to him, we need you to come back and share. You know him as the coordinator, director, the pastor of the Quarantine Revival. I think you're on the 4th version of that now. I don't know, but we'll hear more about that later. We are just so excited to have Pastor James Doggette Jr. back with us at the table.
All right.
And then when we had our social influencers, these two pastors, their name popped up. Their names were shared. They were the ones that everyone was saying, you need to check them out. And so today we are just so glad to have with us our colleagues from North Carolina. They have an online show that's just eating up the airwaves, North Carolina Online Worship. Let's welcome Pastor Kaggia Scott and Pastor Austin Humphreys.
All right. Listen, we are so excited to have you gentlemen with us. We saw Pastor Scott and Pastor Humphreys at PELC. They were part of the hosting crew through the whole time. We were very endeared to your ministry as you led us through the PELC experience this year, but we've also seen you on the Academy podcast. We've also seen you in the Now piece, and we're going to give you guys a little chance to explain that or talk to us a little bit about that coming up. But before we do that, now we talked about this pre-stream. We gave you guys little brief introductions, but now we're going to let you kind of speak for yourselves. Now, we normally give preachers about we normally give our guest about 30.89 seconds, somewhere in there, to just give a little shout out, whatever. But we know that y'all are preachers, and they were fussing about who was going to take all the time. So I'm going to cut it. I'm going to give y'all, because I know what we do. We speak in prophetic time. We are people of the book, people of prophecy. So we're going to give you 15.9 seconds, and we're just going to go left to right. We're going to start with James and just go right across. James, the time is yours. Go.
Wow, I'm glad that I'm able to go first. I was really looking forward to Pastor Kaggia Scott's sermon that he was about to preach. But I'm excited to be here with you all. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the invitation, James Doggette Jr. I'm here, y'all, in Florida. I pastor Deerfield Beach and Riviera Beach. And I'm just excited to be on the Pastors Roundtable, such an influential platform. I love you guys and what you're doing. So, yeah, kudos to you, and thanks for having me.
All right. He did a good job, Kaggia. He left some time on the table for you, Doc.
That's all for him.
Hey, listen. I want to thank God first, who is the head of my life.
Let me take some notes. Go ahead, preach. I
want to praise God for the pretty lady who has my back. Oh, I want to thank Jesus, not just for the pretty lady, but for my 3 children that are all at Oakland University and beyond. I want to thank God for my partner who's right next to me. Oh, I want to thank God for these 3 brothers who are listed right there behind me. Listen, you guys are, I'm telling you, I watch y'all, man. Listen, a lot of the stuff that y'all do, like, we've been copying. I'm telling you. All right. So thank you for bringing us on here. And like, we're still scoping y'all out now. You brought us behind the scenes. Oh, we got some more ideas. And so I praise God for him. God, my wife, shout out to my mama. Hey, you can't forget mama now. You can't forget mama.
I love it.
Austin, you have no time left. I'm sorry.
I got no time left. Hey, listen, guys, I'm happy to be here. Pastor Austin Humphreys. I'm the co-pastor of the North Carolina Online Worship, and I'm excited to be here, man.
Hey, wow. All right. I think
Kaggia's we're going to have a good time today.
I'm excited about this. All right, let's jump in. So let's set this thing up. Pastor Wade already kind of set us up, as well as Dr. Henry talking about, what's on the table today. We're looking at this whole brand new world that we've all been experiencing for the last 8-9 months, and it has thrust ministry into a very unfamiliar and foreign place. And out of it, we've seen some stuff happen that I think many of us were a little surprised that some of these things could happen. Some of it we were hoping and wishing could have happened beforehand, and some of it was like a forced hand that we were forced to do some of the things that we were trying to do before. But let's jump in. I don't have my questions in front of me, gentlemen. Who's got that first question? And let's just take this dive.
It's supposed to be you, but we can jump it. Listen, guys, let's pray and then jump into it. Father, we thank you for what we're about to experience. Is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. What
Amen.
has been the biggest adjustment and surprise you have encountered in ministry since COVID-19 hit?
That's good.
All right, JD, since it took you longer than 2 seconds to start, I'll jump in. I was trying to wait for JD. I did. I gave you 2 seconds.
You, G.
Go right ahead,
I was
go right
waiting
ahead.
for you. Go ahead.
All right, so for real, I love being at church. Like, I was born to be a pastor. I love hugging and speaking to everybody. I love preaching and looking at individuals in their face. I run down the aisle while I'm preaching. And so the whole atmosphere of church is what I love. But here we are. And right now I'm looking like at a computer and at a camera. Mm-hmm. And so there's a huge difference, and something you had to get used to is like, how do I like bring the same energy? Like how do I bring that to an atmosphere where I'm in a room by myself? Like, if I'm used to feeding off of people, if I'm used to feeding off of the Spirit, after the choir sings and it's just thick in the room with Holy Spirit, it's something different. But how can I go from that to speaking to a camera, like, and still bring the same energy? And that's been something that I haven't had to work on. That's been a definite difference between then and now. And but it behooves me. It's my job. I gotta do it. Like, I just like you love your first church, when you move, you gotta love your second church too. Like, this is my third church, right? This is my third district, and I gotta love my third district just as much as I love my first district, and as much as I love my second district. I gotta work just as hard, and whatever it is I gotta do, I gotta come with the same juice that I come when I'm in the church with the choir behind me.
If there's anybody in the audience out there today who has any doubt about Pastor Scott's ability to bring the juice and to bring that enthusiasm in the online space, I need you to go set up a session with Dr. Henry and his wife for a counseling session, because that brother is lit already right here in this space. Anybody else want to take a stab at that?
Well, yeah, I think for me, it's two things for me. I think one of the things that's been surprising, of course, it's the length of time that we've been here. I don't think we ever thought we'd be here. It's going to, almost thinking to ourselves it's going to be a year, in March that we may be in the same space. I think that's one thing that's surprising. I think the other thing too for me is the adjustment that our saints have been patient with us. Oh, wow. I definitely got to shout out a lot of our members who have been online, who have, not really had major complaints. We know how much, especially our older saints who are willing to type in the different Zoom numbers every time they get on certain things and log in, and they embrace it. So I want to shout out our members from across the country that have just appreciated the fact they appreciate what we're doing. They see what we're doing. Even though they miss church, they've learned to adapt. But also the biggest adjustment, I think, for all of us, we've gone from just being pastors and mastering that craft to now becoming tech heads. Yeah. The latest gear. Now I'm asking guys, what lens do you use? Yeah. I used to ask guys, what's your commentary? Or what's, where you get your suits from, where you get your shirt, where your tie from. Now I'm like, yo, where'd you get your camera from? Where, what kind of screen do you have? And so I think the beauty of just the growth overall, it's been great to experience the fact that all of us have kind of made the shift to move into the tech space. And I think that's been dope.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
JD?
Can I jump in? So you both mentioned great points. Pastor Scott, that was great. Pastor Humphreys, that was great. For me, most recently, a challenge has been shifting into the virtual space. You have to be concise. You can't have all of what you would do inside of the building online. It just doesn't work. And everybody, of course, wants their time, in the spotlight, on the stage, in the program. So it's been challenging to make sure that I'm still engaging everyone who typically is engaged in church. I'm talking about platform participation, but having to try to keep them engaged while still dialing down and back the time and spotlight, because you have to be concise. I was looking at something recently that suggested that 75 minutes is like the cutoff point when it comes to virtual online presentations, especially during church. Millennials in particular, that is an hour and 15 minutes. So if we start at 11 a.m., that means we need to be done by 12:15. And if that's the case, I have 2 churches, y'all. So if we're doing collaborative ministry, I guess one of the challenges that I've been facing and trying to work with is making sure that my leaders are still engaged, they're still a part, while at the same time streamlining everything, cutting out stuff that we're used to doing, putting in stuff that we're not used to doing, talking about sharing and things like that, you know. So making the adjustment there as it relates to programming, streamlining that thing, and still trying to keep people engaged without giving brother so-and-so and sister so-and-so the hour and 15 minutes that they typically have to say whatever they need to say on a Sabbath morning.
Wow.
Right.
Well, let me ask a question. Let me jump in here. Interesting. So we talked about some adjustments, but let me ask you, has your preaching adjusted to this? What adjustments have you made in your preaching?
I'll answer that first. Hey, I'll answer that first.
He's
and I'll
meddling.
speak
He's
for these
meddling.
two guys. Hey, I think that all of our preaching has probably gotten better. I think that we've become more concise. I think that we've had to preach like we preach without being fit, without getting the feeding from the audience. As G kind of mentioned, as preachers, we all love when we got the dope point that we kind of share, the ending, the conclusion. We feed off the crowd, and we've had to learn to pivot. And we hear it so much in preaching class. You got to preach the same whether there's 1,000 people in the audience or if it's just one person. And now it's just you, and your wife is on the couch listening to you. You know what I'm saying? So, but I do think in terms of preaching, I'll speak for these guys. I've heard these guys multiple times online. We've all preached for each other. But I think that there's been some growth in the sense that we can still bring fire. We can still bring a freshness, even though we only get virtual amens.
Yeah.
Right, and you don't have any time to drink your water, because usually if you preaching live, when everybody going crazy for whatever reason, they're going crazy, then you can drink your water, right? But now you just thirsty.
Well, first of all, I love how Pastor Humphreys said, you know, all of our sermons are just better. You know, he's just, go ahead and pat yourself on the back, Pastor Humphreys. You've been doing a great job. You can preach.
I was going to say you first, but I wanted to keep you humble.
Well, thank you for keeping me humble. I agree, though, as it relates to just being concise with your presentation, all the extra stuff, man. You can't waste time. I'm thinking specifically as it relates to the presentation of the word. I'm looking at the way I normally introduce a sermon. I reduced that introduction. Like, you got to hit it fast. You got to engage them and hook them quickly, as opposed to all the, the sophistry of word, the preliminary stuff you would typically say. Nah, you don't want to give people time to go and surf the internet and start searching elsewhere. You got to jump and hit that thing right as quickly as you can. So that's been one, specific change in the presentation of the word that I noticed.
Hey, and Dr. Henry, can I say this too? I think that Pastor Doggett forced us, and when I say us, a lot of preachers, to jump into the virtual space. When he did that QR revival and invited all of us to come into the space, if you all remember, it was something new. It was fresh. It was hot. We were getting 300 views a night. I mean, it was higher than that even as it grew. But it was the nervousness. But all of us had to make the shift quickly, who had the opportunity. So I really give a shout out to the QR revival. I don't want to big up JD too much, but I do think that forcing us into that space allowed us to, you know what, let's watch how other guys did it. Let's see how we can kind of maneuver. And I think that's the kind of model that's been going forward.
I have to be honest with you. That QR revival was one of those shows that forced you to rethink how to do a revival. Because that was something we didn't, we weren't going to do it online. But all of a sudden, like, wait a minute, if he could do it, maybe I could do it. But listen, guys, you talked about changing in your sermons, but has your prep time for even your presentation changed?
I would say yes. Let me jump in first. And this is why, because beforehand, I was not nearly as thoughtful about the visuals. I'm talking about now, since we're in the virtual space, it's not just about talking. I can't just tell my tech guy, hey, my point is this and this. No, I'm having to engage now, like visuals more so than ever. And that definitely takes more time, because for me, at least with my platform, not only am I having to choose what visuals to use and design them and put them together, but I'm also uploading them and also putting them up and taking them down when needed. So yeah, that has been definitely something that has extended the needed preparation time as compared to before.
Okay.
Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, I've never been able to concentrate on visuals. Like, even when I was in the church, like, I give my AV team all the pictures, and if you get to them, you get to them. I'm not paying attention because I'm preaching. So I'm not manuscript, so I can't pay attention to anything else. So I'm not looking at the screen to make sure they're on. So now like I can't use visuals anymore. So, I've tried. I'm not sitting here. I can't sit down either and preach. So I have another station that I preach from where I'm standing up. I'm still sweating like crazy. I mean, it's still, I try to do it the same as I would do it in church, except I'm missing the visuals. I really don't have anybody, throwing up all the pictures behind me, because we hadn't perfected things like the pastor's round table. Like once we get everything perfected, I'll be able to use some more visuals. All right. So yeah, I'm watching y'all.
Yeah, I definitely think, and to shoot Kaggia a little bell here, I think that we've tried different things, but I do think, and JD will appreciate this too, we're not just putting the sermon together, we're putting the intro video together. We're cutting the song, make sure it's right. We're making sure the audio is tight. We have the graphics we got to put up. We're making sure everything is syncing. We use all three of us use StreamYard, and I think that as they've updated, we've updated. So I think you not only have to get your sermon done, but for the most part, everything else has to be in sync. The good part of that, me and Kaggia, that we have as we co-pastor together, we're able to help each other in terms of when one person is preaching, the other person is manning what's going on the screen, putting up graphics if we need to, especially for G if he has anything he wants me to put up. So I think that that's the beauty of what we're doing. We're just it's all new, but we're pushing a brand. It's the gospel, but we're branding our ministries in a way we want stuff to be tight and in sync.
During this season, I don't know about you, but I feel like we are collaborating more than ever before. I mean, fellow preachers calling them up. I'm like, hey, Pastor Paul, Pastor Wade. And we have a guy who's also working with us too. What camera am I supposed to get? We're just collaborating more ideas, more. I think this just has really brought us together so that we know that we're not here by ourselves. I think that was just a powerful thing that came up as we were entering this COVID-19 scene, but this QR revival, you gotta unpackage that a little bit. Jay, where'd you come up with that? Quarantine. That's just creative. How'd you come up with this quarantine revival? What impact is it making in the community?
Well, so to take you to the beginning, like the inception of this thing, I remember trying to figure out what is next? Because I knew that this pandemic was shifting everything. And I had just become the pastor of my two churches here in Riviera Beach and Deerfield Beach. So I was in the middle of transition, trying to figure things out, trying to pull two churches together that weren't before me coming. They weren't a district. So I'm thinking, how can we engage the churches? But then at the same time, what is the response to social distancing and sheltering in place and quarantining? Like, I remember hearing my wife, she pulled me to the side and said, hey, babe, did you hear about? And she pointed to, what was that dude's name? DJ Nice. He on Instagram, I don't know if y'all remember this, but he on Instagram went all night doing what he would do in a club, but just online. And the world was rocking with him. Michelle Obama, like how everyone was in there. And she said, man, this dude blew up overnight. And she said, I remember it, and I can give my wife credit. I'm gonna go ahead and just give Demia credit. She said, babe, I see you doing something like this with ministry. I was like, oh, really? Wow. And then I'm thinking. And then she also, man, I'm telling you, wife, man, she's gifted. She came to me and said, hey, have you heard of the Quarantine Con is what it was called. It's a conference that was also on Instagram, the Quarantine Con. And these three guys, they told the world how they, in a short text message conversation, came up with this idea and decided to just go for it. So when I saw those two illustrations, I said, man, I feel the need to do something. So I called up some of my boys. I called up some of my people, say, hey, can you preach on this night? I want to do a revival online. And everyone got back to me fast. And they say, yes. So everyone threw a flyer together, put it out there, and then kind of learned. I don't know if you remember, but we started with I was using my laptop and we were using Zoom. So Zoom, we were using Zoom. Yeah. So I was trying to figure out how to stream to Zoom. And one thing that, I don't know, I'm just kind of a relentless optimist. So I just think I can do it now. Like, I don't need to go and get a PhD in this. Yo, how can you do it? Tell me, okay, sounds good. Let me go for it. And if I trip and fall, I'll learn. So I remember going through the first one using Zoom. We then heard from Richard Martin. Richard Martin, one night, our Zoom was not working. I don't know if y'all remember, but Zoom would not sometimes connect to Facebook. And we were late. It was after 7 o'clock when we were supposed to start.
Right.
And Richard said, hey, man, I got a StreamYard account. Let me sign in and I'll run it for you. So he ran it that night. I said, StreamYard is amazing. So we made the shift. So in essence, these amazing men and women of God pretty much say yes to an invitation to join a team to just go out there and preach and help people. Because I also noticed during the beginning, especially of this pandemic, people were depressed. They were full of anxiety, especially because we didn't know what COVID-19 was, how it would affect our families, our churches. And man, I was like, yo, we got to inspire the world. We have to do our part to help encourage and empower people. So that's kind of like the motivation behind it, the purpose behind it. And the people I called initially were people who I just knew I could get a quick response from. And we almost immediately, right after they said yes, went in, did it, made adjustments along the way. And it's grown now to be, a platform that reaches people around the world, London, Virgin Islands, Australia, people from Poland were watching every night. So yeah, that is kind of how it started.
That's phenomenal.
Hey, Dr. Paul, I don't want him to be too modest here, but I want us to look at the magnitude of the reach that Dr. Doggette had. He's over 1,000 people were over 1,000. Yeah. Some had 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. I mean, when you go back and look at quarantine stuff, I mean, you're looking at major views with something that had never been done before. And I think that just speaks to the fact that for anybody who's watching out there, what he's saying is that he just decided to do it. It wasn't no committee or staff. The Lord laid it on him, and he just was like, let's do it. And I think that sometimes people think that, when you look at the final part of quarantine now, and it's amazing. But JD, I forgot. We started off with Zoom. We were doing that joint. And it's become something just incredible, man. So shout out to James for sure, man.
So I want to be clear. So this was not the conference committee coming and asking you to run a online revival, and you were going to get evangelism dollars and money. That didn't happen.
G is laughing over there because he knows me, man. G is laughing because he knows me. The answer to that is absolutely not. I didn't get a board vote from my churches. Neither did I get a thumbs up from my conference officials. No, I didn't ask anyone's permission to do what I feel God is calling all of us to do, and that is to spread his light and love in whatever method and way we can do it. I'll say this. I've always adopted this idea that, conservative in theology, but liberal in methodology. Man, if we can try something, try it. Again, I didn't ask anyone for permission. We just kind of did it. And I think that also had certain benefits to it because we can just make adjustments along the way, man, without having to call a committee and go through red tape and have to, wait. We were just kind of, it's ready, go, set. We went, and then we were trying to make adjustments along the way.
So it sounds like this was your version, a personal version of getting up, getting out of your house and going and knocking on your neighbor's door.
Boom. Yes. I felt like it was virtual evangelism, legitimately, especially, and this is what I was most blown away with. When we began, the question was, how can we engage the people? Like, engagement was very, very important. And I always felt like going to get a message is cool, but my question is, what are you giving? And the first QR1, we've done 3 thus far and just did a 1-week virtual revival. That was just for my churches. But the first one, we offered an opportunity for people to give to those who are struggling in financial crisis. I don't know if you remember, but at the beginning of the pandemic, people were losing jobs. People were frustrated because they didn't know where their next paycheck was going to come from, how they're going to put food on the table. And there was a lot of anxiety, especially in the realm of financial insecurity. So we said, yo, if you guys want to give. Man, I was blown away. The people of God gave in that first revival over $10,000 to help people who were struggling. And 100% of the money went to that. Again, I think one of the big pieces to this as it relates to success, and y'all jump in and stop me because I'll just keep talking about this because I love it. But one of the big pieces of success, yes, please do, G. I know you go jump in whenever you need to. It was what you mentioned earlier, Dr. Henry. You mentioned collaboration. I feel a big reason why the QR was and has been successful is because it wasn't me. Like, if it was me, I think I have a certain reach, But man, when you're pulling together Austin Humphreys and Kaggia Scott, okay, yeah, Austin Humphreys is saying, yeah, my reach is very small, right? But when you but when you collaborate, honestly, when you collaborate and we were able to bring in all these people, they're bringing their folk with them. So now you broaden your influence. And again, you're giving them a visual of, yo, this is not competition. This is collaboration. And it was something that I think inspired and encouraged people all over the place to see. And that's another thing. We had older preachers. We had younger preachers. We tried to keep it broad. We had female preachers come in. Like, we were doing our part as it relates to emphasizing the fact that, yo, this is a season. If ever we needed to collaborate before, this is the time to do it. And I really attribute that, honestly, to the huge success that we've been able to experience thus far. It's everyone. It's everyone who decided to show up and to help
Absolutely.
out.
One of the things we got from JD, what we got from JD when we started a Cash App, but we weren't getting much coming in. Like, we got a Cash App. We pay the preachers to come in. We pay the musicians we bring in, so we needed some money to work with. We got our churches to agree to a certain amount of money a month to contribute, but we wanted some extra coming in. We did a Cash App and we didn't get much trickling in. But after JD did the Crew Out Revival and showed us the way, like, whenever we had like a particular thing that we could tell them, listen, like, we're raising money for the Boys and Girls Club. We're raising money for a family that's in need. Whenever we had something like that, then people contributed. People were on it. Like, and so when you give them something specific, like, this is where your money is going. And we learned that from the QR Revival. If people know where their money is going 100%, oh, they're with it. Like, if they think it's going to if some of the money is going one place and some of the money is going another place and they don't know where the rest of the money is going, then it trickles in. But if they know where it's going, JD set the record straight when he showed us, listen, there is a mother who is about to have a baby. She's single. These are her needs. Yep. There's a person who had a house fire. These are their needs. If you give, all the money's going to this person. And the people jumped on that.
Yeah, I'm thinking there's one thing I want to say about this, and that is this. And JD, I don't know if you probably don't know this, but I met you the first time I ever met you. You came up to right above my knee. I remember I was at Oakwood when your father came to teach at Oakwood University, and you were just a tiny little bald head fella running around, behind your dad. And I'm looking at what this season has done, and people don't know this, but I want the audience to know. So I've been pastoring now for 20 plus years. I had no reservation to pick up my phone just this week and call JD and say, JD, I'm working on an evangelistic meeting, and I need to bounce some ideas off of you. Listen, that's the thing that I had no reservation. I know he's however many years my junior, et cetera. But what this thing has done, it has shown us gifting that God has placed in different people in different generations, and you're no respecter of that. God is not a respecter of where he places his gifting. And older pastors and older members need to be able to look to some of the younger ones. Younger ones need to not be shy and scared just because somebody's older, that they don't have something to contribute. That's one of these things that I think that this context has given us. You cannot be that pride that we might have had before when none of us know nothing about something. You better go ask. Gotta find somebody to go ask and get some input there. Awesome stuff. Let's go ahead and make a little transition here. I'm looking here. So, Pastor Scott, Pastor Humphreys, what is the Academy podcast? And how did you end up collaborating with each other? How did you guys get linked up with that? What was the motivation behind it? And what do you think the impact of it has been up to this point? And we want to talk about the now, and tell us what the now is as well. So let me ask you for both of those things. What is the Academy podcast, and what is now?
I'll let you go first.
Well, let me give you how we started. I can tell you how we started. All right. So he lives down the street from me. And so we've already preached in each other's churches. We already been down doing things together. But so when this COVID first happened, our first week off, he told me he had a Zoom. And I was like, well, can my churches come in? And so my churches joined his churches in a Zoom call. And he was preaching on the 23rd Psalms. Now, I just read the book. Not the book of the Bible. I just read a book on the 23rd Psalm. So I was geeked. So I kept interrupting him while he was preaching to give my little 2 cents. And we kind of preached that thing together. And so the next week we were like, let's do it again. And when we decided that, at the same time, we knew that the people needed more than something once a week. And so we came together. We said, what are we going to do Wednesday? We're going to always bring in a guest, call it Wednesday in the Word. When are we going to do Sabbath school? Let's do it on Friday night. Well, what about some kind of Bible study? Well, let's do a prayer line we'll do that on Monday. And so the prayer line and the Sabbath school, we'll have it open so everybody can get in. But on Sabbath and Wednesday, they'll just watch and we'll do everything. And so let's do something else. Well, how about let's do a podcast where we go and interview people. And that's how we decided on everything we were going to do. And so the podcast, the Wednesday, the Sabbath, the Friday, and the Monday was all decided right there on one phone call. And we just got rolling. And we started with our laptops, with our cams that was on our laptops, right? And like JD said, ready, start, go. You know what I'm saying? So and Austin can fill in kind of how it flourished after that, but it was a decision.
I just think that for us, and how he said it happens, you want to do this? He was like, yeah, let's do it. That was it. G brings the energy, but he's also like, let's do it. Let's try it. I want to say this to people who are watching in terms of collaborating in ministries. You can't collaborate with everybody. You got to collaborate with somebody that it's no ego in the space. If G told me it's a bad idea, I trust him explicitly. Okay, we ain't going to do it. If I tell him we'll laugh about it, boom, it's no hurt feelings. And we were able to work together and we meshed even before. So it just kind of worked. We not collaborating just online was critical though, because we want our churches to feel like they're involved. So it gives them community. We do Monday night. We just added a Tuesday night Bible study, Wednesday in the Word. We take a break on Thursday, and then Friday we do Sabbath school, and all 4 churches come together. So we all have this one vision. They're all collaborating, working together. And when we come online, it's just, we've been working all week long. It's not just what people see on the screen. I also think that with collaborating, we're able to bring fresh ideas to the table, also giving each other a break, not having to preach every week. And also, with the podcast, the podcast is the Academy Podcast, a curriculum for growth. Basically, we wanted to talk to all of our heroes in different fields. To start off in ministry, our first podcast is with Pastor James Doggette Jr., who just kind of blew it up, man. We were on our laptops. I was in my wife's school, our office, in our home. We didn't have some of the background stuff we have now. And just over time, we evolved. And I want to say this to somebody who's watching. You don't have to buy everything right away in your space. Just just all you need is some good sound and some lighting. And over time, just build. And that's what happened. We started building. We created this Wednesday in the Word thing. I think that was the first flyer that we put out for Now Worship, that Wednesday in the Word. We had preachers from all over. And we really had adopted the idea from what James had been doing. Where Wednesday night, we would kind of just come on and highlight other speakers to be a part. And so over time, it just became something to the point where it's evolved so much, we have to keep this going. So we're already looking at plans for next year, what we're going to do with it, how we can evolve. And we're not afraid to say, you know what, let's try it, let's do it. But collaborative ministry works when you got people who are willing to come to the table with no ego to push the gospel forward. Go ahead, G.
And I think it has a lot to do with finding your niche as well. So when you look at Austin and G, he's Austin and I'm G. We're apples and oranges. And so I'm the best G, right? And he's the best Austin. I can't do what he does. He can't do what I do. So we're not stepping on each other's toes. And so, right. And instead of mixing it up, if you go to a new church, you're a young pastor, all the elders take turns preaching, no matter how good they preach. One of them can't preach at all. One of them preaches real good, but they preach the same amount because that's what they do, right? So with Austin, he listen, man, look, you do what you do best, and I do what I do best. We don't have to share equally. I do what I do and you do what you do. Wow. And that's the way it fits. That's perfect for us. I got a niche. I fit in my niche. And look, when my niche is over, I sit back and be quiet because Austin runs the show.
Wow.
Can I jump in real quick? Because I got to highlight these 2 individuals, because one of the things I've learned from you guys, because you all talk about the quarantine revival and taking things from that, you all went above and beyond, especially when it came to trying stuff. Do you all remember when you all came out with the 2K tournament? I'm like, yo, these guys, they're not just engaging adults, but they were being innovative enough to try to engage young people as well.
Let me say something that JD doesn't know. Let me say something you don't know. So I was riding my bike. All right, I'm out getting my ride in. Right. So I call Austin. Because I'm ADD. My mind is always somewhere. So I was thinking about some argument when I was having with some imaginary person, and I called JD with this idea. I said, JD, we need to do a online tournament, right? And he was with 2K, man. We need to do 2K. And then I called Austin, and Austin was like, look, we need to do this before JD thinks about it. Look, he said this idea is so fire. We need to do it before JD comes up with it. And so before I got home,
he snitched.
Before I got off my home, before I got to the crib, the flyer was already out on Facebook.
Hey, look, Doc, we had stuff that said details coming soon. We had no details. I was just so afraid that JD, in the back of his mind, would think of it first. So I said, we've got to put this out immediately. And folks jumped on it. We got people from all over the country. We did a Biggest Loser challenge where we gave $200 to a female winner and a male winner. We've done Health Now. I mean, we've created a brand, but listen, those ideas, we wanted to be a network where people said, I can get fed in multiple areas, not just getting the word, but I can be fed with my health. My kids can play 2K and enjoy that. And we're going to do it again. I'm sure we're going to find new things to do, but yeah, we're trying to find new ways to engage people. That is a story. I was afraid that JD would get a call from the Lord and I wouldn't jump on it first.
Hilarious. Can I tell you that these guys also, you brought us on here. So look, we're just kind of vibing with each other. The reason why I love these guys too, and this is to you, Pastor Wade, Pastor Paul, Pastor Henry, is because I know after doing 70 plus nights of online revivals with the first 3, I'm also doing some other stuff with school and things of that nature. I remember I was just burnt out. And I don't know if this is going to be a segue or not into another topic as it relates to just collaboration, some of the benefits, but I was burnt out, man. And I remember G and Austin saying, yo, JD, we got you. Don't jump on Wednesday night. Send your people to our Wednesday in the Word. And guess what I was able to do? I was able to just chill. And this is why, because I knew these guys were going to take care of business. And they jump on there. And what they done, they just covered me, man. They say, yo, all of my QR folk, of course, they welcome Now Worship. All of my QR folk, we want you to know that your pastor loves you, man. He's going through some stuff right now, but he gives his love, and we're here for you. And we were a pastoral team. Wow. Although we're not pastoring the same church, we literally became a pastoral team to where we covered it just today. These two gentlemen were killing it at PELC. They were hosting PELC all week. So they're tired, they're drained. So guess what? Austin, I got you. Wednesday, we got this revival going on. Send your people over here. We got Saturday, today. Hey, all of my Now Worship people, Pastor Scott, Pastor Humphreys, they love you. And they also gave me some information about their churches. So we were able to pray for a family that lost one of their sons to gun violence. Like we are like a legitimate collaborative church, even though we're in 2 different conferences, 2 different states. The idea of collaboration has been so beneficial in so many different ways. And I appreciate these guys in particular for being able to just lean on a man when I need some help. They've been there.
Yeah.
Wow, that is just so special. And I want to go back to something, Pastor Scott, you mentioned earlier. When I asked about the collaboration, you said that Austin was your neighbor, or he lived down the street or something. Is that literal? Like you're in the same city?
Yeah, we live 7 minutes apart.
And you're pastoring you were assigned to do 2 different churches.
2 different districts. So our districts are neighboring districts, right?
Okay, so you got 4 churches. Is that what you're saying, Scott?
Yes.
But even though you're in the same city and in the same town, you are collaborating in that same space. I want to bring that out is because some folk will say, well, it's one thing for you to collaborate with JD because he's not your, what's the word I'm thinking of? I want to see if he's not your
competitor.
Yeah, he's not your competition. So in other words, nobody's going to get up. If we were in real space, nobody's going to get up from JD's church and move their membership over here or over there. So there's a lot of pastors and a lot of church members, church boards, who would never, this idea would never be an option for them, because they would be too afraid that somehow by them getting to see this pastor and hear his sermons are much different than this one, and I want to go. And so that concept would be such a taboo and foreign. We're not touching that. What helped you guys get over that or did that enter your mind? Did you hear any of that from your members in that? What was that like?
I hadn't heard anything like that.
You go.
Go ahead, Doc. Go ahead.
Go first.
Well, we've already been in each other's churches. I mean, they already know he preaches way better than me. So, and I hug better than him. So,
whatever, dude.
Well, I mean, they already know we're known commodities in each other's churches. I've been doing a seminar in his church. He's preached at my churches. So we're already teamed up on so many different things. It's a no-brainer. It's that I'm not a foreigner coming in. I'm Pastor Scott. I'm like, Uncle G coming to the house. Right. So, yeah. Uncle G is crazy, but I don't want him to be my daddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
To answer your question in a more civilized way, I do want to say, I think it's important to know we have a relationship on the court and off the court, if you will.
Okay.
So our wives are close. We know it. That's why I said you can't do this with anybody. I don't just put it out there. There's just some people you're not going to be able to mesh with. We just mesh together well. In our churches, there's a level of respect. But now, because we've done it for so long, they know that when they see him, it's a part of it. And we still have our separate identities. We still do regular board meetings. We're separately with our churches. We still have finance meetings. We still do different things. We take care of business. But at the end of the day, I think what our members have learned to love is a collaboration with other churches coming together. So it was never a sense of, oh man, what do we do if we get a baptism? I'm like, yo, praise the Lord. Like, it doesn't really. And if a person in the city collaborates and wants to be a part, you have 4 options of a place to go to when this thing is over, And we're trying to figure out now, if we go back, how are we going to collaborate still? How are we going to make it work? So I just think that, and now even with JD, when JD doesn't show up, for Wednesday in the Word, my members almost always ask me, where was Pastor JD? Because he even though he's in Florida, my folk in North Carolina, they identify with him. And I don't want to shout out just us. We got to give a shout out to Recharge Worship, Kyle, Meshach, and Janelle, because they do the same. Everything that we're doing, they're doing the same exact thing. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the way to think I'm mute.
Most of our listeners are laymen. They sit in the pew. They're the ones that give us the energy, make it happen. There are 2 things that's emerging in the chat. But I want to ask this question. One of our members asked, one of our viewers asked this question about collaboration. We could collaborate with each other as pastors, but what would you share with our laymen who are listening about collaboration with the leadership?
Wow.
How would you, some of them are like trying to figure out how do they fit into maybe even this virtual space? What are some of the things y'all have done to collaborate with some of your members? What have you done to make that happen?
Go ahead, G.
You got it, Austin.
So I was going to say, that's one of the reasons why we decided to collaborate without just the online presence, not just an online presence. I think collaborating our churches with us together we have a schedule, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, off Thursday, Friday, but that allows for them to partner together, to talk, to work together, to where that runs without me and G being there a lot of times. Now we can be there, we can do it, but they set it up themselves. So the 4 churches collaborate together. There's a schedule. Elders talk to each other. It's a really well-oiled machine. Now, is there things that we have to perfect? Absolutely. I think there's always something we have to kind of work on to perfect. But we didn't shy away from, we know we need you to get involved for this to work. If we're going to collaborate, it don't make sense to me be doing Sabbath school over here, this church doing it here, the other church figuring it out. No, let's all come together, work it out. So I think including them is important, but also I think one thing, and JD did a perfect job of it, I think this week. JD did a revival for his churches. I know he'll talk about it a little bit more later, but getting them on screen now finding ways to get their input, to share. We highlight, we speak about them more. So I think that for those who want to have the FaceTime and want to be a part, they reach out, and I think we're open to it. For sure.
And I can't do everything. We interviewed Eric Thomas, and he was talking about some of the things that his church was doing. And I was thinking I would love to do some more of that, but I'm tired. Like, I would love that. And so we had a board meeting, and I had a couple ideas that I threw out there, but I was like, somebody got to do this. Like, I'm not doing it. I'm not going around. I'm not doing all the legwork. I'll show up. And my church stepped up. And so members of my church took on the stuff and put it together, and I showed up. Like, I'll show up at stuff, but I can't do everything. And so we have to collaborate with the membership, or we're very limited in what we're going to be able to do. Now, there's a multiple effect of working with Austin. All right. So it's not just addition. Like, we do twice as much or 4 times as much as we could do alone. Wow. But still, when you add the elders in there, then that you can multiply some more. And so we still would be limited as a pair if we didn't use our elders. Like, so they work. Like I said, I don't go to all the Sabbath schools. I don't go to all the prayer lines, but it goes on, and I don't run them.
That's the key. That's the key. Yeah. Trust your people. Yeah. For anybody watching, trust your people, but equip them with it. This is how, teach your folk how to use the platforms. Equip them on how to do it, and it'll benefit you. I promise.
Can I jump in real quick? Because I think what you all are saying is so valid. But let me just say this too: that not all members or lay people can do what Pastor G and Pastor Humphreys are doing. So we should not relegate ourselves to only being successful if we're able to host a show and put on and do what the pastors are doing. One of the things I'm suggesting and finding out more and more about is the disciple Andrew. My dad talked about it in the revival this week. The idea that there has to be somebody who's not on the stage, but rubbing shoulders with the people who don't mind not being the quote unquote leader and still being at peace and knowing that you are being just as much a tool in the hands of God as the person up preaching. So, and the illustration is this, biblically speaking, how did Andrew know that the little boy had that specific amount of fish and the specific amount of loaves? He had to have had a conversation with him before the need even came up. He was a disciple. Again, that's Peter's brother, by the way. Peter's the one we always hear about, Peter, James, and John. Well, Andrew was also there, but we're not hearing about Andrew because Andrew did not need the limelight. Andrew did not need to do what Peter and them were doing. But you know what Andrew was good at? He was good at knowing the people, and he was good at having conversations with the people. And my suggestion as it relates to being engaged is your engagement does not have to be the mirrored replication of what these guys are doing on a week-to-week basis with their faces in the camera. There's so much ministry that goes on behind the scenes, and it's a needed ministry that, we have to highlight and celebrate, especially with the fact that you got older members who don't have family who are around them, but you can pick up your phone and call them and say, how you doing, Sister Smith? We're just thinking about you and praying, and let Sister Smith talk to you for 3 hours. Guess what? That's a powerful ministry. So the idea of encouraging and trusting trust them with Zoom platforms, trust them with technology, give them space and opportunity to try, learn, fail, whatever. Give them space, but also empower them and encourage them that what you're doing, even though we're not seeing it on the screen, is so vitally important. And we need Andrews in the kingdom of God.
Let me just say before we transition real quick, I want to be more clear for those who may consider collaborating like me and G are doing off the screen. Our elders come together, all 4 churches. They put a schedule together. They collaborate so there's no burnout between any of the churches. They schedule all of the prayer lines. They schedule all of the Sabbath schools. And that way it's a healthy rotation of seeing not only different teachers, but you're getting different inputs. And that way that schedule helps out in such a way where all we need to know is who's going to do what. People get on, our clerks work together. It's a beautiful thing that happens. But it's when I'm telling you, when you give your people the okay, when they feel like they're being a part, there's no burnout and it's only good collaboration.
I'm so listen, that collaborative piece. Let me just say this real quick, G. I'm trying to get it out. If I go over to G's house because I'm family, right? I'll see G walk around in his drawers and a t-shirt just because we family like that. That's just how he is. He's comfortable around me because we're family. This is something I've learned, y'all, about collaboration. One of the benefits is when you got guests coming to your house, you're going to put your clothes on. You're going to make sure everything is nice and neat. And it's funny. I'm going to throw this out there real quick. I'm just going to be transparent with y'all. So I had the first drive-in service at my first church, Riviera Beach, this Saturday, right? I've been doing drive-in worship over at Deerfield Beach for like the last 2 months. But y'all know what's funny? This week, I go up there, I see my head elder and my tech guy cutting wood and lumber and building stages and backdrops. I said, oh, y'all trying to outdo the other church in audition. You trying to get them jealous, aren't you? I pointed out, they laughed about it, but it's a true statement. And I don't know how to say it without just saying it. It's a benefit because when you're collaborating with other ministries, when I know Now Worship is tuning in, you know we're going to put our best foot forward. When you know that you have an international audience now,
that's
people
true.
that are tuning in. Yo, people start acting right, and it forces you to step up. And collaboration, that's one of the benefits of collaboration that I've seen on my in my district, on down here, is that when it comes to Sabbath school, guess what? My teachers are on. They're making sure that they come prepped and ready because they know the other church is listening. And it's not competition. But it's it's the team aspect. Yeah, the team aspect. If I want to help the team, I'm going to do my best. If it's just me, it is what it is. But I'm not going to let my teammates down. So I'm going to do my best. And that's been very helpful for us.
So, this is not, people who watch, they probably don't know this, but I'm going to spill some beans that I might get kicked for later. We think through these pastors roundtables things, and we send out questions and we kind of flesh our way through them. Here's one that was not on there. So when you collaborate in those spaces, is there a mindset? So let me, and JD knows this because JD pastors in the same county that I pastor in where I'm at.
Right.
JD knows because we've had this conversation. There are 56 something Adventist churches in this area, 12,700 something members among those churches between two different conferences. And we comprise 0.6% of the total population. And so what we've been talking for a little while about in collaboration is not so much on programming, but on how do we reach the 2 million people that are in the space that we are called to minister in. How can we leverage the gifts and the resources and the skills of our people to take that 0.6% and move it to a place that makes more sense as far as us having a presence here? How easy is that? How difficult is that? Are you thinking about pushing your members towards collaborating, not just for a virtual program and for spaces, but how do you create a mindset that moves members towards, we're not just getting together to do a program for us, by us, etc., but how do we move that towards that larger missional concept?
I've been talking a lot, so I'll let y'all talk, and then I'll jump in after you.
And I'm not sure, maybe because I ain't been pastoring but 11 to 12 years, but really I've found that, I know there's a rumor that the people don't like to be out there, but I've found that when we're doing stuff for the community, that the people get more excited, especially when it's brand new. And it's kind of my job, because they get excited when you first start doing something. So it's kind of my job to give them different things to do in the community. And when I give them different things to do in the community, the excitement level can stay where it needs to be. Now, if it's the same thing, if we go into the same nursing home for 25 years, then it dies down. But if we do different things in the community, I see that their level of excitement and engagement kind of stays up. And when we team up with another church to do something in the community, the level of engagement, excitement even goes up to another level. And so if we're helping out with a marathon, if we're going out having a barbecue over here, if we're doing something, and we invite other Adventist churches in the community, or even other churches in the community, it's even more excitement. And I have not seen lackadaisicalness when it comes to doing community work, especially when we collaborate with other churches.
Let me sneak peek a little bit about what we're doing here, because out of all that we're doing now, and G hit it on the nail right there. I'm still doing a Bible study at one of my smaller church in Washington, North Carolina, in the evening. So after I go online, we do a drive-in just Bible study. I have a screen outside, TV screen. I'm doing a study just so that they can have a sense of some kind of community. We just purchased a large 20-foot screen that one of my members who volunteered to not only buy it, but build it. They're going to build it. We're going to do stuff in the community with that screen. We're going to get a licensing from the county to be able to not only stream Christian movies, but allow us to do some virtual training with that screen outdoors to do certain things. We're going to bring in professionals. And the only way we can do that is by me, watch this, collaborating with people in my neighborhood. People who listen, all of us have pastored churches, have been around churches where you pastor in a city where you got 13 churches on your block. So when you see all these different, I don't need to master the food bank, because you got a massive food bank that I can send my people. I can send folk that way. But I know what I'm bringing to the table. What we're going to be bringing is new, is fresh, is relevant. But also, it's also saying, you know what, we have to be missional. So with that screen, it's not just going to be to stream, my sermons, even though that's a great thing, or stream quarantine or stream Scott. We've got to figure out a way with this screen. How do we make this just major in the community? What does the community need? Do we do some type of training on Zoom where you pull up in your cars, your laptop, and we walk you through Zoom on this big 20-foot screen? Do we walk you how to start, manage PowerPoint? I mean, because one of the biggest things that we have to realize, especially as young pastors that I'm learning, is that in the virtual space, it's all good, but life for people still going on. Yeah. There's still struggles. We still have to meet the need. We can't be so virtual minded that we still miss the community at the end. So listen, at the end of the day, I believe this: going into the home to deliver a Bible study and to invite you to church, that's dead. I ain't going to your home at all. It's dead. COVID, it's dead. But it's going to be much easier to send you to a Zoom link, get you to be a part, and then say, hey, listen, we're doing something with a drive-in. It's not just to be a service. We're going to be doing something intentional for the community. We're going to be having a movie night for your kids. And the next time we're going to be doing some type of streaming that's going to do some training to bless you, to help you in your work. So we have to think mission and vision minded, not just virtual. That's cool, but also for our community.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. All right, we're going to take a pivot right here.
Listen. Yep. Before we pivot, yep. There was another major thread in the. Our folks were just mesmerized that you said you didn't take this to the committee. You didn't take it to the church board. You didn't take it to no committee. There are I know somebody's ears perked up, and they wanted to know how you did that. What was the reaction? What? Give some insight, because I know some pastors are listening, and they want to figure out how you made that transition.
What trouble did you get into for doing that?
What good trouble did you get into?
How do you bypass the committee? How do you bypass the committee?
Are you talking to Pastor Humphreys? Because he's a very rebellious pastor, and I think that he might be the person to answer this question. I'm not sure who you're talking to about that.
Let me tell you something right now. The conference sent me to pastor this church. I am here to lead the people, and there was a decision, as JD mentioned earlier. It wasn't, I'm a pastor that says, hey, what do you all think? But at the end of the day, this is what we are going to do. We're going to try this, and this is how it's going to go. And I'm telling you right now, at the end of the day, the folk were on board with it. It was so new for everybody. We didn't really have time to meet and come together and gather. Kaggia called me and said, you're doing a Zoom? I said, yes. And ever since then, we've been live. It just, it's just one of those things where we just made the move. I think that, and this is for me, my case, and I know, JD, you may have a different experience, but I think that the shift for my people, it was almost like I had to say, look, this is the way it's going to be. We have to move in this direction right now. And I think the people, because I was able to have the tough conversation and they understood, because, COVID is still serious. They knew we couldn't be in the building. They knew that they wanted to still see me. See, now you got to think about this. Before they were seeing me every other week, they're seeing me every single week. And sometimes multiple times when I do Bible study as well. Yep. So 2-3 times a week. So I think now they understood from the jump, this is what's going to happen. And I think me walking them through it, because that's important, young preacher, walking your people through it. But I didn't leave it up to, what do you think we should do here? Listen, folks, this is where we are. This is where God is leading us.
Wow.
We did have to sell them though on the finances. We did. I mean, like if we kind of found out how much we'll need, we're gonna need $1,300 a month to do all the programming we want to do. And instead of bringing it out of my pocket, like how can we get the churches to help? And so I did have to meet with the churches and say, listen, we need $300 to $400 a month commitment from you. We're not meeting in the church. We're saving this amount of money, and we're going to need $300 to $400 to continue doing the program that we're doing. This is what we're going to present. And so that had to be so, but it wasn't a question of, can we do this? Will you let us do this? Can we vote whether we can do it? No, it was, we need this amount of money of your support.
Yeah. Well, can I jump in there real quick? Because I think that when I look at the life of Jesus, he just did ministry. So if you want things to die, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna throw it out there. Y'all said it. I think you covered everything. Thank you very much, Pastor Humphreys, Pastor Scott. You told us that we need to involve everybody, and I think that's very important. Transformational leadership requires that you do engage the people. I'm not saying ignore your people. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is it wasn't hard to follow. Right. You also built.
Hey, keep that comment. That's my wife right there. Love you, babe. That's right. We built. We did build. Hey, let me just. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but listen. Your people trust you when you're faithful. This is for real. When you are faithful and the people know that you have a heart for God, it is not going to be hard to follow a James Doggette, a Kaggia Scott, and humbly Pastor Humphrey. It's because they've seen the work ethic, so they trusted you. So I think that if you were doing nothing before, and I'm talking to the pastor who's just doing a Zoom call, and they're just calling in, and you don't want to expand, and you don't want to move your reach because you're afraid of what your people might say. Don't live in that fear. Step out. But it did make it easier. Shout out to my wife because we were able to build before. My bad, JD. Go ahead. I had to show my lady some love. Go ahead, Doc.
No, I'm glad you showed your, because I think that's a very, very important point. And you were just so humble, Pastor Humphreys. Thank you for your humility. You're one of the meekest men I know. So I will say this though. And this is why, can we all talk about the elephant in the room? Let's just be honest. The reason why I think that person was so astounded that we said we did it without committee vote is because too many things have died in the committee. Too many things have died in trying to get everybody to give you the thumbs up. My suggestion is, and I love what you guys said, invite, encourage the people, try to get as many people involved as possible. But my suggestion is this: don't wait for everybody to say yes. And my suggestion also to you is this, that be prepared for people to not want to do it or to not think what you're doing is okay, and be all right with going out there. And even if you fail, having the people point at you and say, see, I told you so. Listen, if you're about kingdom building, then my question is, like, what problem do you have with me trying to get the word of God out there and share the love of Jesus out there?
Right.
If you have a problem with that, then we have a whole nother conversation that we need to have. But my suggestion is, if you want to get things done, then you invite and encourage folk. But boy, having a meeting about the meeting before the meeting takes place to determine when you can meet, talk about the stuff in the meeting, to determine in the meeting how you're going to meet, and then determine if you can do what you're going to talk about listen, that is too many people are over that. By the way, that's why a lot of folk are not as engaged in church as it relates to ministry. And a lot of ministry is happening in a parachurch format where it's not coming and being birthed out of the board meeting, but folk are just doing stuff. And you know what? Yeah. We're like, hey, how can we support you? And the church kind of attaches to it. But y'all, I'm in this space where I'm telling people, go. I'm telling people, try. Like, don't sit here and try to get a yes from everybody, because that's just not going to work. Build trust. Thank you, Pastor Humphreys. Build trust, engage everybody. But doggone it, if you don't do something because people are saying that they don't think it's the right way to do it, well, good luck, because you won't be doing much in life, because most people are not going to. God didn't give it to them the way he gave it to you, because he didn't call them to do it the way he's called you to do it. So if God gave it to you, then my suggestion is, don't disrespect God by giving the calculator to people and letting them compute the worth of that idea that God gave you. That's not. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you imagine what would have taken place if God had Moses pull all of the Hebrew Israelites together to vote whether or not they wanted to leave Egypt? Can you imagine that meeting?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, it'd be ridiculous.
Preach.
People who want to build the kingdom are not going to have a problem with your ideas. It's the people who have other priorities. that are going to try to stop and kill that stuff. And you can't let those people keep you from trying. You can't let those people keep you from attempting and stretching, because here it is. If you're about building the kingdom of God, those who are on the same wavelength will go. And let me talk about why Austin Humphreys and Kaggia Scott and Pastor Wade and Pastor Paul and Pastor Henry are such trailblazers. It's because leadership requires that, watch this, if you want to lead the orchestra, you got to turn your back on the crowd. And I'm suggesting this. I'm suggesting this, not that you ignore people. I'm not saying demean people, and I'm not saying ignore their feelings and ignore their contributions. No, people have great contributions to be made. But when you show up with nothing but pessimism and negativity, thank you for your negative opinion. Now allow me to keep doing what God has called me to do and build this wall. I'm not coming down. I'm gonna keep pushing forward. If you want to lead the orchestra, you've got to turn your back on the crowd. And too many people want the crowd to stand and give them an applause before they try something. And let me just throw it out there. You're not getting the applause until it has been a success. And you're not going to get to the place where it is a success if you're not willing to go out there and just try it. So I don't know. I'm just pushing those people who are so kind of fearful. You mentioned it, Pastor Humphreys, kind of in that place of fear where you don't know if the people are going to rubber stamp it. Did God rubber stamp it? Okay, then go and do it. Now, if you need the funds of the church, you got to have the vote. You got to, of course, do what you got to do as it relates to organizational, protocols and procedures.
You got to have a plan. Right.
You got to have a plan. You got to have a plan. I'm not suggesting you don't have a plan. Have a plan, involve people, bounce stuff off people, get their ideas and contributions, but doggone it, do not let a board vote keep you from doing what God has called you to do. That's my suggestion.
My Lord.
And I got to say this for the older saints and for those who've been so patient with all of us, you can't neglect to call one of the things I do is, hey, sister so-and-so, listen, thank you for listening. You've been listening, because she doesn't have high-speed internet. One of my areas, there's no high-speed internet. So she listens most of the time. And she enjoys it. Thank you for listening. I know it's been difficult. You still have to, they respect you more when you say, look, Pastor, we know that you're trying. This is the best that we can do right now, but we love your effort. We love your vision. Thank you for leading us. Thank you for understanding. And I think that goes a long way. We have, as Pastor Doggette said before, man, is that you got to move on it. But I really love and appreciate the fact that, at least in our cases, especially me and G, that our members have accepted it because there's been a plan put on the table. We're not just asking for funds just because we want funds to do whatever. This is where it's going, and they're seeing the final product. The stuff looks good. So I thank God that God has given us churches that are willing to pour into our ministries to help it go far.
Absolutely. Can I say this, Pastor Paul? I know you're about to jump in, but illustration and example, drive-in experience, right? You talked about doing a drive-in movie for the kids and things like that for the community. I love what you're suggesting, Pastor Humphreys, but we decided we're going to do a drive-in experience. A lot of people were kind of hesitant, but here's what happened. We got a bunch of support, a bunch of great commentary, a bunch of adulation, and even pouring in with extra funds and resources when we did it. And it was after we did it that they noticed, wait, this is a good idea. And it wasn't until after the songs were being sung, the preaching was going out there, that we had people in the communities who would not come out of their house, but would listen to the preaching in their house, would listen to the singing in their house. And then after 2 Sabbaths, we had a handful of individuals from the community come to our church throughout the week and drop off a seed that they wanted to sow into the ministry. And one lady I went to visit just randomly around the corner from the church said, hey, Pastor, and she named the last 5 sermons that had been preached in the 5 weeks prior to that conversation. And it wasn't until I was able to say, hey, family, can you believe that what we have been doing has been so impactful in the community that people we don't even know, folk who aren't even members of our church, are sowing seeds here and are also starting to invite their other friends in the community to come and worship with them at their house, not in our sanctuary, not in our parking lot, but in their home, in their homes. And it's after we've been able to share those testimonies that people start to get excited. My suggestion to you is this: don't wait on everybody to get excited to try stuff. it will happen, man. When they see that it's about, if your priority is the kingdom, if you have sincere motives,
It'll work.
I'm telling you, God will bless it, man. God will bless it, and the people will love it, and they'll trust you because you're not doing it for income. You're doing it for outcome. You're not doing it for your own. Yeah, go ahead. Jump in.
And JD, and you gotta have 10 ideas, not one. Like if you got one idea and it doesn't work,
that's right.
You're done. You gotta have 10 ideas and maybe 8 of them will work. Yeah, you good. Yeah. You can't just have one idea.
That's good, man.
That's good, G.
And that's why collaboration works so good, because you get so many different ideas.
Yeah.
That's true.
Let me jump in here, and I like the point that your wife made, Sister Humphrey. If they trust you, they're gonna follow you, right? If they trust you, they're gonna follow you. And so, even though you may have some naysayers out there, you got some folk in that church that will trust their pastor. They're gonna trust the leadership, and those folk they're just gonna bring you on through. So I like what's being said here. And another thing I want to say, and I want to just add this question. The teamwork always outperforms the individual. I don't care how big of the church you are. Team will always out. Michael Jordan didn't win a ring until Scottie Pippen came on board. I just want to put that there, right?
Say that.
Greatest player. Say that.
So the team always outperforms the individual. But let me ask you this. So we have collaborative ministry now. We're collaborating. We're doing the virtual space. Hey, listen. There's some people who still want to see each other, right? Let's just be honest. I mean, I know there's some people that want to see each other. They love the outdoor church, right? And they want to get, let's just be honest. And they want to get to the point, I got some saints in my church. They want to get to the point where they can see each other on a consistent basis outside of the virtual space. Where do we see this virtual space go? Because it's here to stay. How are we going to mix or merge these two ministries together? The in-person that's coming and the virtual space. Because there's a great success happening with the virtual space right now. There are some people, let me just say this. I have some people who are saying, you know what? Even when we're able to get back into an in-person situation, I'm not going. They say, I'm not going. I like what's happening now. I like being able to look at church from my living room, in my pajamas. I love it. That's what I want to do. So what are we going to do? How are we going to merge this together? Or should there even be a merge together? Emerging together.
I'm just going to throw this out there, and y'all can give details and suggestions and all that. We are not going back to how things were before the pandemic. No, it is not happening. Right. It's not happening. Even if you wanted to, like you just mentioned, Dr. Henry, people are, we have some folk who are like, yo, open up the doors, Pastor. Everyone's coming. We miss each other. Okay, I'm going to open up these doors, and not even 50% of y'all going to show up. Because COVID is real and people care about living a little bit more than they care about seeing you. And suffice it to say, things are not going back to the way they were. So I think your question is very relevant. How then can we shift and try to create something that is new and fresh and that will still engage the people, especially now that you have a virtual platform? I'm going to let Pastor Humphreys and Pastor Scott kind of speak to the specifics about it. But I can say this without a shadow of a doubt. We ain't going back.
All right, so here we go. Now, how many people did you have percentage-wise coming to prayer meeting? All right, on a weekly basis, like, because, all right, so maybe we go back to church on Sabbath, but on Wednesday, when I was getting 7 people to come out, like, and if it was 15 people there, we were like, oh, it's 50. We cooking tonight. No, so we ain't, So we understand that, like, some things are definitely better online. Like, if you've been working all day, you'd rather go online than go to the church and get dressed. Because some of them, you can't come in your jeans. They got to put on their dress clothes. They got to go home, change. Yeah. So that's not happening. Wednesday, we know we're going to have to keep doing online. Like, we're going to have to keep collaborating.
I can't see going back to prayer meeting in the physical space. It's too online. Is just too good now.
Wow. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, even Sabbath school has been much better. Doing a collaborative Sabbath school time for us, man. I have way more people on the line, man, in Sabbath school than we ever had in person on a weekly basis. So we're gonna have to rethink a lot of these things. I do think. Oh, go ahead, Pastor Humphreys. Jump in.
No, I just want to your point, because I want to just how JD showed us that we could do a revival online live. Someone is going to do something that's going to flip a switch in all of our brains and say, you know what, they're onto something. So right now, I think the beauty of just saying we don't know yet, but when we see it, we're going to be, we know that we're going to be able to perfect it and figure it out. I think that we didn't know we could do a revival online before, and JD broke the glass ceiling. We didn't know that we could bring 4 churches together, 2 pastors with 2 different visions at first, and have a consistent viewership for Wednesday and Saturday. We didn't know that we could do all of these different things. Now that we do, because we've seen someone do it. So I just think, to answer your question, Dr. Henry, and I think it's a great question that all of us are trying to figure out until one of us, we see how it can be done and see some version of it. I think that's what we're going to begin to see. I think now with states, I know North Carolina, we're going back to, they're shutting down a lot of different things. We just don't know how long we're going to be here. But when that time does come, we need to be ready for when that great idea comes for us to kind of jump on it and tweak it and make it our own.
Listen,
yeah, Dr. Henry, man.
I was going to say this, and I'll let you go. I just spoke to a pastor, man, in Nigeria. He said, man, they're already in the building. He said, look, they're in the building right now. They're enjoying themselves. And I was thinking to myself, I said, you know what? I know we're going to have to do something different. I know this virtual thing is here to stay. And so we just got to do it. Go ahead. Yeah.
Doc, the reality is we have membership. We have people that are coming consistently that are from all over the country. From outside of the country. And so even like when we were threatening to go back, like we were going to go back at my churches at 2:00 in the afternoon because we can't stop doing what we do at 11 because we have people coming. Right. And so whenever we go back, like we cannot deny that we have to provide for those who will not come. So we're going to have to go back with a dual effort for something in person, but we're going to have to continue to provide for those who cannot come in person. Facts.
Dr. Henry, the Adventist Church was not ready for e-members. We just weren't. Wow. TD Jakes has e-members, thousands of people at one church. E-membership, we weren't ready for it. We just weren't. At the end of the day, we have to have, I had talked to my ministerial. We have a person who wants to get baptized from Denver that's been watching Now Worship. They want to be a member. And we have to have the discussion about membership because we have never talked about e-members before. So this is an exciting time, but it's also letting us know, like, man, how far back were we? Because when we look at guys like Jakes and other big time preachers who are on TV, see them online, the switch for them was so much easier because they had an online viewership consistently for years. So I think that we're kind of, we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go. So that's a big part.
I like this comment in the chat. And I think this kind of summarizes, I think, the purpose of church, of what we do. By Marlon Lamont, it says, I believe our churches are droplets of water into a lake. Our churches must have a ripple effect within our communities. We got to have an impact in the community.
Yeah, we got to have an impact.
And I think that what's happening now is just great. I think COVID-19 has elevated the reach of the church. It has elevated the reach of the church. It's allowing us to know that, listen, we don't have to be stuck within just the 15, 25 mile radius. Listen, our ministry is global. In fact, I think that's the Gospel Commission. Go to the world, right? We're going to the world, right? That's right. We're going to the world. Listen, I know there's a lot of questions. I know Pastor Wade is looking at me.
I'm hearing the music. I'm hearing the music. So you know what that means.
I'll be transparent. My wife has a workshop that she's about to do right now, mental health workshop. And I'll be honest with you, but if I'm not there, I don't know if I can go home.
You better go, Doc.
I think we're coming to an end. I mean, this has been a rich conversation, a rich conversation. I don't know, guys. We've been toying with the idea: should we go longer? But today we're not going to do that. We're gonna shut it down. But I just want to say thank you to these men of God who have shown the world that they can make church fun again. Come on now.
Yes,
they
absolutely.
Can make
That's right.
Again.
That's
Pastor
right.
Wade, can I ask them one more quick question? third, just one little question, and that is, what do you know now that you wish you would have known when you started doing what you're doing? 30 seconds. If there's one thing that you wish you had known when you started trying to do ministry in this time, in this context, what would that thing be? We want to leave that with our folk today. What have you learned along the way that you wish you'd known at the beginning?
That I don't have to do this by myself. I don't have to do it by myself. These are my brothers. I love them. And I wish we could have created this culture of collaboration some way before this, but not doing ministry by myself is talk about mental health. Thank God for this. I mean, just straight up, just thank God for it. And I wish that more of us would do it in the future, honestly.
Yeah. G.
And I'm not, listen, I feel a niche. And there are a lot of people that can do some things that I don't do as well as they do. And just finding those people and putting those people in place. Even in church, like I wear way too many hats. Like, and when we get back to the facility, man, I'm not wearing as many hats as I used to wear. Like, some of them don't even fit me. Some of them cover my eyes. Some of them are like little beanies. Like, all the hats don't even fit. All right. So yeah, that's what I learned, Doc.
All right.
So I've learned, y'all, and this is something I'm still learning. And you kind of mentioned it, Pastor Humphreys. It's the idea that if Jesus, who was the greatest leader of all time, proved his leadership not by his presence but his absence. I know just going out there and doing things is great, but the power of collaboration, especially engaging other people in the process, is so invaluable, because if everything relies on you and you got the keys and you got the passwords and you got the login information and you got all that stuff, if you leave, guess what? It dies with you. And that is an indication of a bad leader. Jesus and his leadership grew when he left. And it grew when he left because he poured into disciples, people who he did life with. And I would just suggest this, y'all. I know you have innovative ideas. I learned this the hard way. You will burn out trying to do this by yourself. Make sure that you got other folk with you, which is why, by the way, I celebrate the Pastors Roundtable, because you have three individuals who are here sharing the weight here in this space here, doing this together. And Pastor Humphreys and Pastor Scott, you all are illustrating that as well. It's just so vitally important, y'all, because again, I'll say this, until I'm blue in the face. At the end of the day, life and legacy is about living beyond yourself. And you can't do that if you're the one who has everything. And the only way it can happen is if you show up. That's actually an indication of bad leadership. If you leave and things die. But if you can leave and everybody else knows what to do, guess what? Praise God for that. I'm still trying to figure that thing out, man. But you'll burn out quickly, and everything you built will fall straight to the ground if it's all reliant upon you.
This is awesome. This is so awesome. Thank you again so very much. Listen, audience, we're going to drop some links on our page for the Now Worship, for the Academic podcast, for anything else that JD is doing. Look for that on the Pastors Roundtable website as well. That is the Pastors Roundtable. What's the address? Oh, my goodness.
The what? The Pastors Roundtable what?
Is it .com, .org? Something like that.
We have a what? We have a what?
On the website. It's new. It's brand new. I don't know if it's up yet, but it's coming. We were supposed to. I think it is up. Yes. We'll drop that link in the chat. Not in the chat, but on the page as well, Facebook page. Go ahead, and if you have not subscribed to the Pastors Roundtable YouTube channel, go ahead and do that. Like this video. We're looking. Share it today. You got some gems today that somebody else needs to see. If they weren't here today, share the video. Let them come back and get all of this rich information and inspiration. I think I'm seeing in the chat people saying how inspired they were, ready to go, fired up. Thank you again so much to our guests today. We are excited that you showed up today to help us here at the Pastors Roundtable, help keep ministry relevant,
resourced,
and real.
Take care, everybody.
That's so glad.